Excuse me, Mr. Geo.
Yeah, what's up?
What does it take to become a champion?
You gotta dream, you gotta think, you gotta act, you gotta ball, you gotta bleed, and most important, you gotta believe.
You gotta dream
Like a champion,
think
like a champion, act like a champion, say I'm a champion.
soar,
Like a champion,
bleed,
like a champion,
look in the mirror and believe.
you're a champion.
You gotta dream
Like a champion,
think
like a champion. You're tuned in to IChampionHealth Chats, the podcast for amplifying community voices and advancing health for all in Lexington, Kentucky. Each episode connects you with local champions who bring powerful stories, useful tools, and fresh ways we can show up for ourselves and others. Let's lock in and learn how we can champion health together. All right, good morning to all of our listeners and viewers, and welcome to another episode of IChampionHealth Chats. I am your host, Gerald Gibson. I am a community program coordinator, violence prevention and intervention. I am the executive director and founder of Operation Making a Change. And joining me today is my co-host, Jakob Hester.
Yep, I'm Jakob Hester. I'm program coordinator for IChampionHealth, a community engaged initiative out of the UK College of Education.
All right, so we have a special guest this morning. We have Miss Cheyene Helm with us. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am
All right.
great. Happy
All
to
right.
be here.
All right, you're looking beautiful, Queen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for
So-
having me.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your foundation?
Absolutely. My name is Cheyene Helm, as he said before. I am the CEO and founder of an organization called Bright Light Foundation to bring awareness to fentanyl poisoning and gun violence. And we do a lot of things in the community. I would consider myself a community activist and an advocate also. I do a lot of volunteer work with CASA of Lexington, and I am currently in school to become a lawyer. So I do a lot of different things.
Okay, about to become a lawyer. What kind of lawyer? Defense?
Looking to be a prosecutor.
Okay, all right. And what made you want to get in that field right there?
So I'll do a backstory. So the Bright Light Foundation come about with the passing of my 4-year-old daughter and her father, and the justice system here in Kentucky just failed us.
Okay.
And so I just feel like it's a calling for me to be able to help people in the legal system as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know your story pretty well. Like, we've been in conversation for probably like a year or so now. We've joined different events and things together, and you've come to some of our events and things like that in the past. And so I know a little bit about your like backstory, and know how you're turning this sort of unimaginable, tragedy into purpose, but also a form of healing for yourself too. So, what was that moment like when you decided to start your foundation?
It was a God moment. Back in 2023, a couple of months after my daughter passed away, I was very suicidal, and I didn't want to be here. I didn't feel like I had a purpose here or anything like that. Like, it was just gone. And I kept praying to God. I was like, okay, God, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And in July, I went to a women's conference. It was my first time ever been to a women's conference, and they were praising God and doing all these things, and the Holy Spirit just fell up on me for me to do something in honor of my daughter. And I'm like, okay. So I went home and I started praying, and over the course of a couple of months, I was like, brighten this, brighten that. But it was like, no, that's not it. And so I was reading a chapter out of Jeremiah, and it was talking about bringing light to the Gentiles who are in the darkness. And it was just like Bright Light Foundation. I was like, okay. And so in September of 2023 is when me and my assistant director now, we're going over the ideas of starting the nonprofit and what the name should be and things like that. I was like, I already know the name. God gave it to me. And she was like, what is it? I was like, it's a Bright Light Foundation. So as far as like the documents go, and with the Secretary of State getting all that stuff done, it was done in September of 2023, but the Bright Light Foundation launched on my birthday in October of 2023. So October 4th, 2023, the Bright Light Foundation just started. And so since then, it's just been the move of God upon this organization. And things don't happen overnight. When you plant the seed, you don't immediately see the fruit of your labor. But I've seen the fruit of my labor quickly grow over a short amount of time from other organizations that have been around for quite some time.
How has that purpose and that healing changed over time too? You're talking about planting those seeds and starting to see the fruits of that labor. What is that looking like now from where it was?
Well, I was more so focused on, at the time, bringing awareness of just about what happened to Brighton and what just happened to her father. But now I see that it's not just about them, and it's not even just about me. It's about our nation, actually, overall, and knowing that there's so many people that are going through the exact same thing, and feel like they don't have a sense of purpose and feel like they don't have any support and things like that. And I'm able to kind of relate, in a sense, to those individuals. But to reiterate on my own healing journey, it's not linear, because grief is a cycle, and how you process that is solely up on your belief system, the things you go through in the cycle of grief. And I will never get over the loss of my child or losing her father and things like that. But also the way I represent myself and stand in the truth of who I am and bring light to other people. They look at me as if, how do you get here? How did you get here? And it's all the grace of God upon my life. It's all his love and his mercy. And people look at me as being strong and all these things. And I am. I take account for that. I am. But it's God's strength in me to get me to where I am at today. Because obviously, even a year ago, I was not here where I'm at today, and being active in the community and having all these people do outreach to me and helping so many people. And it's just the numbers with the Bright Light Foundation, as statistics go, it's just growing. Bright Light Foundation is reaching more people. Brighton's story is reaching more people. Her father's story, my story, and it's all for God's glory at the end of the day. So, if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about the work that your foundation is currently doing in the community?
Absolutely. So, every year, well, since the Bright Light Foundation started, we do community outreach events, such as the Families Fighting Fentanyl events. We go and speak at different addiction centers, recovery centers. I go and speak in schools and churches, and I have really good connections with the hospitals and the pediatric clinics across Kentucky, so I do that. As far as the community goes, and reaching out to them in a sense of knowing that they need help. We do back to school drives, and we are actually working on the Bright Light Christmas drive. So that happens every year. And this year it looks really different. So over the past 2 years, we have just given back to UK Children's Hospital and Brighton's Daycare and Shriners. But this year, God just put it on my heart to really, truly give back to those in the community who don't have much, who really, truly need help. And so we are doing that by doing the Bright Light Christmas Drive. And I actually had to close down I had to close it down. I had to close it down because so many people were signing up. And so I'm like, okay, God, you put this in my spirit and for this organization to do this, to be able to provide for these families. And so this year, individual families are totaling up to 88 with just the parents who have signed up. That's not including their children. And so I'm praying that God will provide for this event to be able to reach them in a sense of knowing that we see them needing help, but also letting them know why the Bright Light Foundation exists and why you need to know about naloxone and why you need to know about prevention and awareness, because my child's not here anymore.
Yeah.
And so that is another reason why we do the Bright Light Christmas Drive, because I want to bring light to someone else during Christmas time and the holidays that I don't get to have with my child. So that is, it's going to be a really exciting family fun-filled day, but they're also going to know about Brighton and what the Bright Light Foundation does. So that's what we're currently working on right now.
Very amazing things happening in the community through your foundation. You mentioned fentanyl. How dangerous is fentanyl? What do you want the community to know about, these dangerous drugs that exist in our communities right now?
It's fentanyl is very lethal, and I didn't know about fentanyl until 2023 when my daughter passed away. I didn't know it existed.
Take your time.
From what I've learned with my partnerships with the DEA, fentanyl since 2023 has killed over 100,000 people who did not know that whatever substance they were taking was fentanyl, whatever pill. Like there's a campaign called One Pill Can Kill, and it's on the DEA's website. And the statistics of that makes fentanyl the most lethal overdose of a drug in the United States. And so it's the tip of a pencil that can kill you, the very tip of a pencil, which is not a lot. And it's very saddening to see that it's not just happening with people who are addicts. There's no discrimination when it comes to fentanyl. It's happening to college students, and it's happening to teenagers who, have anxiety and think they're getting a Percocet or something off of the street to calm their nerves or something for their anxiety, and they're actually getting something that is lethal and that is going to kill them. So there's no discrimination whenever it comes to fentanyl. Like, it can happen to anyone, unfortunately, and it doesn't matter your background, where you come from, how old you are, really, because it happened to my 4-year-old daughter. And then I see, my daughter didn't have a choice. She didn't make the choice to take fentanyl. It was somewhere in a home where I thought she'd be safe, and she wasn't. And since then, my daughter passed away. Like, I see fentanyl and being in daycares and kids passing away from it in daycares, and it's just very lethal. And it is a monster, honestly. It is a monster, and it changes everything. It changes everything, and the dangers of fentanyl are very real. So as far as college students go and young teenagers, I highly suggest not taking anything from a friend or anything off the street that you think that you're getting, because it's not that. If it's not prescribed, don't take it from someone. That's what I really want to say.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's heavy.
Yeah, I've heard you use like intentional language too when you've talked about it, and saying like fentanyl poisoning versus like a fentanyl overdose. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. An overdose is when, I feel, and you can look up the definition of an overdose, is when someone intentionally knew that they were taking X amount of something. Poisoning is not that. You didn't know. Fentanyl poisoning is simply that. These individuals who have lost their lives have been poisoned by such lethal, drugs. And like I said, it only takes a little bit to knock you out, take you out. And that's where I've done the naloxone training to be able to revive someone and know the signs of an overdose and things like that, or at least try to reverse the overdose, quote unquote, that's happening. But as far as fentanyl poisoning goes, it is poison. It is very much poison. I know the death rates are different, but, whatever you're taking, say if you're taking heroin and fentanyl, it's still, but you don't know it's fentanyl. It's still poison, because it's like you didn't know that you were on fentanyl, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like that. I wanted to ask that because it was something that I noticed when we first started talking, and it was something I hadn't really thought about, but from like a stigma perspective too, right? Like it changes that narrative from it being like somebody who's struggling with addiction, maybe somebody who chose to use a drug at a certain point in their life, versus like this whole other scenario where, like you said, they could be, you know, it could be in nearly anything, right? Like at some point,
Correct.
there, some of those stories are probably farther and fewer between, right? But yeah, just like there are people who are, experiencing, who are losing their lives over it, that aren't making a choice, right?
Correct.
And so I really appreciated that kind of language shift, and kind of shaping my mindset on this problem, or kind of any other problems, how we talk about them and
Correct.
use certain words that we don't think maybe have like a stigmatizing connotation to them.
Yeah.
So like I said, I really appreciate how you've shifted my mindset for something like that.
Absolutely. Because there is a stigma around it, around fentanyl, and it should not be. I know whenever my daughter first passed away and I was on the news and all these things, they would put on their overdose. And I kept telling these people, I'm like, my daughter's 4 years old. She didn't pass away from an overdose. This is
Right.
poison. This is fentanyl poisoning. And so I kept saying that on there, like, my daughter passed away from fentanyl poisoning. That's exactly what that is. This is not an overdose. This is completely different from an overdose. So, yes.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit and sort of look at the bright light, so to speak. You've been out in the community a lot, right, doing this work. So what do you feel like, from your perspective, like is helping the community feel stronger, healthier, or more connected right now?
I feel that it's being able to relate, in a sense. Being relatable, being able to let someone else tell their story of what they've been through, and also having that support stand behind them. As far as the Bright Light Foundation goes, that's what we're here for. To, like I said in the beginning, to not only just talk about my story and bring awareness of Brighton, but also other people. There's so many people who feel like they can't reach out, or they feel like they can't talk about it. There's a guilt in a sense. And I felt that before the Bright Light Foundation started. I was like, I don't want anyone to know, that this is how my daughter passed away. Like, what are they going to think of me? XYZ. But it's like, it's not about what someone thinks of you. It's about who you are at the end of the day. And I was not responsible for the death of my child. My daughter unfortunately passed away at the hands of other individuals. And so the Bright Light Foundation is kind of like a safe haven for other people, even if they have not lost someone in such a horrific way as I have. They still may be grieving something in their life, whether it's the loss of a child, a brother, a sister, or a loss of a job, a loss of a dream that it could be anything. And so the Bright Light Foundation is just a safe haven for that. And it's just bright light. We bring in light to the darkness in the communities, and letting people know that they are safe with us.
Wow. Let's talk about hope, Cheyenne. Let's talk about 3 to 5 years, what that looks like. What do you hope to see in the community within that time span, and also for your organization? Where do you see yourself right now?
That is a very good question. I see the Bright Light Foundation as a whole being nationwide. The Bright Light Foundation is not going to be just some nonprofit organization in Kentucky. It's far beyond that. And I realize that by all of the individuals across the United States that I'm connected with, who have reached out to me, who have asked, can I bring the Bright Light Foundation there? Can something like the Bright Light Foundation be in New York and Louisiana? People are looking for a sense of this type of organization. And it's not just a nonprofit, it's a movement. It is a movement throughout the entire nation, remembering Brighton, her legacy, and being a light into the entire nation because it's filled with so much darkness. And so where I see myself in 3 to 5 years is completely running the Bright Light Foundation full time, having employed staff, having peer-to-peer support, having a personal, not a personal hub, but just like a hub, somewhere where people can come to and feel safe, a place for kids to be safe and a place for parents to feel safe also, and just keep moving forward. God has something big planned for the Bright Light Foundation, and I'm starting to see that, and it's not just in the nation of the United States. So many people in Canada and Singapore and China and all these places have reached out to me from just seeing a documentary regarding Brighton and the Bright Light Foundation, and how just my story alone, really going into detail of my story, has helped them, and like I said, it's my story for God's glory, and it's not easy to be able to do what I do. It's not easy at all. But my strength comes from God and God alone.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. But that's what it looks like. I, want to have a mobile naloxone training set up and things like that to go around the community and teach them prevention, continue to go into the schools and all the universities across the nation. That's where the Bright Light Foundation needs to be for all the college students, not just here in the state of Kentucky.
Yes.
And so that's what we're looking at.
Love your vision. It's amazing. So through it all, what are you most grateful for?
That is a good question. I can't just
Because it's a lot. This is pretty heavy. This is but I hear the hope. I hear God is in it, and God is definitely using you for a greater cause. And
yes.
what are you most grateful for through it all?
I can say that I'm most grateful that I didn't give up on myself. When everybody else left, me and my life, because I guess they couldn't handle my grief at the time, or people changed over the course of years. I didn't leave on myself, and God didn't leave me either. And so that really fueled me. Like the people I thought who would stay in my life, they did not. And so that just gave me fuel to just keep going. And I guess I should say I'm really grateful for my mindset, because I could be in a completely different space if I chose to let the death of my child and the death of her father take over me. I could be out here, losing my mind.
Yeah.
How easy that could be too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I could be out here, just not doing nothing with my life, just, settling and there's so many different types of things. I could have went down a completely different pathway in my life. And it could be, people probably would have understood that, yeah, she lost her child, but I chose to use that pain to fuel the power that I have within me today and my light. No one's going to stop my light. No one's going to stop my shine, and I don't care.
That's right. So how do you take care of yourself in the midst of all that? Like what does that self-care look like?
Okay. So I do go to therapy.
Yeah.
I see my therapist either every other week, sometimes weekly, depending on my state of mind and what's going on, things like that. Obviously, the holidays are getting closer, so I do struggle during the holidays, with not having my child here and things like that. She was my only child, so it's just me now. But I take care of myself by going to therapy and being mindful of what I'm letting in my mind and in my heart, because your heart and your mind is aligned right here. So what are you letting in here is coming through your ears, and what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And so I try to be mindful of what I listen to and what I watch and who I'm surrounded by, because energy's everything. Energy's everything to me. I don't want to be around energy that's going to deter me somewhere else. And I also travel around this time as well. I do a lot of personal outreach to other parents who have lost children, to make sure that they're doing okay during this time. And so I think that for me is a healing, and it's helpful because I'm reaching out to these individuals knowing that I'm going through the same thing,
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a sense of connection there, so I like to stay connected. I do go to the gym, and shopping. So
Okay. It seems like you
So-
do a lot to show up for others. You managed to write a book in the midst of all this too.
I did.
Yeah. What is
I
that book
did.
about?
So it's so crazy. The book is called Beauty from Ashes, A Story of Redemption and Hope. And it has a phoenix bird on it, on the front. It's so beautiful. I wish I had it with me today. But I always knew I had a book in me, or two. I'm actually in the process of writing another one.
Okay.
But yeah, so my book, it is basically a memoir, in a sense, of what I was going through when my daughter first passed away. And it includes my prayers that I wrote to God. It includes my poems. Like, I didn't start even writing poetry until my daughter passed away. I didn't even know I had poetry in me. I'm like, what is this? This is new, you know? So, and then it also includes like letters I have written to my daughter over the past 2 years. And so that come about at the beginning of this year. So I wrote my book, or started writing my book in March, published it April 13th. In a very short,
Congratulations on that.
thank you, very short time frame. So in January, I was given this 52-week Bible reading plan, and in that first week, it had a place to where you could write down your prayer, or whatever. And I was like, okay. So I wrote on there. This is the exact prayer that I wrote. I still have it to this day, and I go back and look, and I'm like, wow, I'm living in at least multiple prayers that I've prayed, and I wrote, "Dear God, I know that you have in me a book or two or three. Please place the right people in my life to get this book published." And that was it. So in February, I met with a career counselor through my therapist. She was like, "You need to reach out to this person. You need to reach out to this person." I was like, okay. And so we ended up having brunch. And we talked, and I told him about my life and the things I was doing. And he was like, "Cheyenne, you are not meant to work for anyone." I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You have an entrepreneur mindset."
I need to meet him. But go ahead.
Yeah. He was like, you have an entrepreneurial mindset. He was like, in 2-3 years, you're going to be doing so many things, and it's not like God's going to be able to provide for you in that sense. I was like, "What do you mean?" I just kept asking, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
He was like, "You need to write a book." So this was in February. I wrote that prayer in January. I was like, "Okay." He was like, "You need to write it as soon as possible." I was like, "Okay." "Okay, I can do that." That exact same day, this lady from a publishing company reached out to me from Chicago. And she was like, "Is this Cheyenne?" I was like, "Yeah, I usually don't answer no calls." I was like, "Who is this calling me from Chicago?" And she was like, "Is this Cheyenne?" I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "I seen your documentary on YouTube, and I want to help you write a book." I said, "Who is this?" And
Right.
she told me who she was and the publishing company she was with. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Is this a scam?" And she was like, she was like, "No." She was like, "We want to help you publish your book for free." And I was like, "Are you serious?" She was like, "Yes, we do." I said, "Okay, well, let's draw up the paperwork."
Nice.
Let's draw up the paperwork. And she was like, "When do you want your book published?" And I said, "April." And she was like, "What day in April?" And I was like, "April the 7th. I don't know. I think it was like the second week of April, whatever." And she was like, "Okay, we can get that done." And so I started writing the book, sending her the edits and all the things, and it was published April 13th.
Really? Well, congratulations
Yes.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the way that God moved in just from that month, from January to February, from me writing down that prayer. And it was just crazy. I was like, "Okay, God, what?
Won't
I'm
he
going to
do
need
it?
the book."
Won't he do it?
He
Won't
said he
do
would.
it? That's right.
Yeah, it's
So-
amazing the amount of trust and vulnerability to put yourself out there in another platform, right? Like,
Correct.
podcast and like sharing your story like physically with people in schools, and then book deals and all that sort of thing. And like the vulnerability of like sharing your story in all those different platforms, and then in this case, like with the book, to like basically publish like your journal, like.
Yes.
Kudos to you to be able to like to have that like in you to be able to just like turn that type of thing over to help other people.
Yeah, I literally tell people, I'm like, when you purchase my book, you are going to take a deeper dive into what I was going through every single day.
You talked a little bit about energy too, so I'm curious. Gio and I we're really into music. That's kind of one of the things that we bond over. I know for us, it's like a self-care strategy as well. So what's like a song or an artist that you turn to when you need a reset of some sort? So whether you need like a pick-me-up or you need like a calm down.
That's a good question. So, I would say Maverick City Music. Fear is not my future. For sure, with a pick me up, whatever you want to call it, it's just really my go-to. And so I really connect with that song because in April of 2023 is when I got rebaptized. I gave my life back to Christ. And whenever I was coming up out of the water, they were singing that song. And so it just still just resonates with me when I am feeling down on myself, because fear is not my future, and God is, and He gives me the peace and the grace and the strength to continue to keep going. But there are days where I'm just like, okay, I need to pick me up, so I'll turn on my worship music, or I'll turn on like some what's another song, it's working for my good. It's by William something, I forgot his name, but he's a gospel artist, and it's just the relationship I have with Christ and things like that. What I'm listening to, and in my heart and mind, I don't like associate with too much rap music in a sense, because of the woman that's God's called me to be. I have to be very much aware of what I'm bringing into my spirit and my energy. And so it's just the peace of God that comes through those songs, and it's just amazing because it is working. It's working for my good, even when I can't see it, even when I can't feel it. It's all working for me, and I'm glad that I have that mindset now, because 2 years ago I didn't. I probably had it, but I had to really dig deep and find that sense and find that trust to put in God, because I was just not there.
So as you know, the podcast is called IChampionHealth Chats. So we ask each of our guests to fill in the blank on this sentence. So IChampionHealth through, or IChampionHealth by.
By me?
Yeah.
By Cheyene Helm. Is that what I was supposed to say? I'm sorry, I don't know what I was supposed to say.
No, like you can fill in the blank. So it's just like IChampionHealth through, or IChampionHealth by, and like what's something you feel like is that sort of the essence of how you champion health.
By inspiration. For sure, by inspiration.
I like it.
So, Cheyenne, we have people listening. We hope all over the nation. I love how you throw the nation in there.
Yes.
What can you leave the nation right now? What would you like to say to the nation? Something uplifting, and especially for our young viewers today. What would you say to them?
I would like them to know that no matter what circumstances they are in or they are facing, they can always get out. They can always be a light to the people that they are surrounding them, whether they're older or younger than them. And to not give up on themselves, to believe in themselves the way that God believes in them, and really truly know who they are and not worry about what other people think. To really dig deep and to know who you really are and who God says you are is what matters the most.
Okay. And how do people find you if they want to get this book? All right. And are you on social media? What do you have? How do the people find you?
Yeah, so my Facebook name is just Cheyene Helm. The Bright Light Foundation is on Facebook, Bright Light Foundation. And then I have my public speaking page, which is Cheyenne Speaks. You can also go to CheyenneSpeaks.com and purchase the book there, or you can go on Amazon. It's on Amazon as well. But if you want a signed copy, you might as well just come to me, because you're not going to get a signed copy.
That's
on Amazon.
right. I definitely want mine. Next time I see you, I want mine, definitely.
Okay.
But again, Cheyenne, we thank you for coming by. Your journey, your testimony is amazing. We will continue to pray for you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's Miss Cheyene Helms joining us today with IChampionHealth Chat. I'm your host, Gerald Gibson, my co-host, Jakob Hester. We appreciate you all for tuning in. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to IChampionHealth Chats. If something you heard in this episode spoke to you, don't forget to follow us and share it with your community. You can find us on social media at IChampionHealth or email us at iChampionHealth@uky.edu. This season was paid for with funds from the Kentucky Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission by and through the Office of the Attorney General. The opinions and recommendations expressed in this podcast are those of IChampionHealth and the guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the Kentucky Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission or the Office of the Attorney General.